Hi everybody, how you doing? I have come all the way from the Google Hickling office to be here with you with my colleagues Winston Pickles and Rosie. So do you know what? I'm really proud to be part of this. When G said come talk at the event, I thought it'd be like 30, 40 of you. 250 people registered for this event. That is phenomenal. And a bit more. That is absolutely incredible. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm not going to get technical with Gen AI. She said start with something really basic and simple, so that's what I'm going to do today. But I've spoken to a few folks here, even ex-school friends that I haven't seen for a few years, and I know there's a few people starting companies in the audience. So my commitment to you folks is if there's anything I can do working at Google to help you bring your business connected into the Google ecosystem, call me. The community we have here in Norfolk is really, really important to me. I really appreciate the opportunity to stand up here. So Google has some really cool people doing some really cool things at the moment. For example, we're taking the telemetrics data from the Formula E cars, putting it into large language models so spectators can talk to the car and ask it how it thinks the driver is doing. Is that cool or what? I'm not one of those people. I'm the guy they call when they have a really, really boring business problem, like HR retention, DSO, margin analysis. That, ladies and gentlemen, is my jam. And if it's your jam too, I'd love to chat with you after the event. Today, I spend most of my time actually talking to IT organizations about how to adopt generative AI and apply it to their business processes. If that's of interest to you, I'm happy to share that with you after the event. But today I'm going to start with some stuff that everybody can do tomorrow with generative AI. What I've noticed in my tours of different companies is the thing that is different between AI as it was when I started doing it many, many moons ago and generative AI is it's ubiquitous. Everybody's using it. Should we test that? So raise your hand if you've created a machine learning model, you've done any data science. There's a few people in here. Doing analytics doesn't count, but data science, fantastic. Now raise your hand if you've used ChatGPT. Okay, what about Claude? What about Google Gemini? Well, not bad, not bad. Thank you very much. So today I'm going to do two things. I thought I would share with you 5 things that I use Gemini for that you might find interesting. But I appreciate in this room, you might have cool things that you do with this technology. So watch out. At the end of the presentation, I've set up a little barcode just for this room. So I will share my deck with you. But my ask is that if you join the group, you share the cool things that you're doing with generative AI. Is that okay? So the other thing I've noticed with AI in general is that it is surrounded with a lot of rhetoric and angst, particularly if you're end users. So I'm going to start with a couple of slides that talk about the history of AI and where generative AI has come from. And for the folks that did all the machine learning, Gen AI experts, you can fall asleep now, check your phone. But for those folks that are joining here and going, I'm a little bit worried, I'm not sure how to use and where to focus in the business, you can keep paying attention. Does the clicker go this way? Yes. So the first concept I want to throw out to you is the difference between artificial general intelligence and the artificial narrow intelligence. Is everybody familiar with this term? A few folks are. It's a really, really important distinction because artificial narrow intelligence has been around for years. If you look at the cell phone as an example, the digital circuits that used to translate the signals coming off the cell towers into our phones were actually designed by evolutionary AI many, many years ago. If you're old enough like me, you remember the big cell phones with the big batteries? The batteries suddenly got smaller. There's a couple of folks here that remember. That was evolutionary AI that sorted that out for us. When I studied AI, it was thought impossible to actually plan a route from point A to point B using maps. Because if you think about it, as you move out of this office building, the possibilities grow exponentially. And then a guy called Buskell invented a Buskell algorithm, and now we have maps. So the point here is that artificial narrow intelligence is all about automating a task. And if we focus in that area, it offers a huge amount of opportunities for us. Artificial general intelligence, which is what you see a lot in Hollywood movies, and you think about automating a human being, is where a lot of the angst and rhetoric is currently based. Now, in reality, I don't think I'm going to see that in my lifetime. I hope I do. My children may. So my advice is focus on the area of artificial narrow intelligence and figure out what task you can use this technology to perform. GPT. So some of the folks in the room might know what GPT stands for. It stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Isn't that exciting? Google actually invented this in 2017. You may have experienced it in 2018, 2019. Because if you used Google Translate in 2017, does everyone remember how much it sucked? It was shocking. And then 2019, everyone went, this is pretty good. That was Transformers that did that. And also, when you went and searched, it completed the text. So for those of you not familiar with large language models, essentially at its basic form, what we've done is taken the entire body of the internet and used that exact same theory but placed it inside of the system. That's possible because we've got a higher level computing power than we had back in 2017. And so what effectively is happening when I type something into Bard or Gemini or ChatGPT is it's doing what this did in 2016. It's trying to predict and complete it. That's all it's doing. As one of my friends once said, AI is maths, not magic. It's a great magic trick. Where's this stuff going? So many of you have probably used first generation generative AI, which is text-based. By the way, and I shouldn't say this because I work for Google, if you use OpenAI, there is a great drinking game that you can play with OpenAI. Unfortunately, we filter ours a little bit too much, but OpenAI can be rude. And if anybody's interested, I'll share it with you afterwards. But we're now on the second generation of generative AI, which is what they call multimodal. For folks who aren't familiar with what multimodal is, it simply means it can do video, text, and sound. And it has context between all of them. So there's a lot of new opportunities opening up in this space. What's coming is that the systems will be able to reason. They can't do mathematics anymore. If you go into ChatGPT or Bard or any of the things and go and ask a simple question, if you said it takes 1 hour to dry 3 pieces of clothing on my clothing line, how long will it take to dry 9 pieces of clothing? What do you think it'll say? Yes, it will. And it'll give you a perfect explanation of 3 hours, right? So that's changing. So the third generation is coming, and watch out, that's going to be really interesting. Is that a good little history lesson for those of you who are into AI? You're like, yeah, I knew this already. So I'm going to just share 5 things I do with Gen AI today. I had to record this the other night, so I apologize for how slowly and badly I was typing. I'm a little bit nervous about you laughing at my typing as I was doing it. So the first thing is understanding your customer. So you can go in to any of this technology and say, tell me about a customer and what's important to them, and it will give you answers. What I find, actually, is if I want to understand about a customer or an individual and a client, 9 times out of 10, they've been at an event like this, been recorded and uploaded to YouTube. And if I find that video, I can simply ask Gemini to watch the video for me, summarize it, and then I can ask questions about the lecture that they performed. I find that a really interesting way to kind of understand customers. I can even go a stage further than that. I can ask what was in the video. In this case, there was a duck in the video. And then I can go even further than that, and I can say, how is that relevant to my business? And could you create a picture of a duck that I can use in an email that I can send to them? So that's the first thing. The other thing I think is really cool is after I've done that, what I'll often do is I'll go, in this case, I pretended to be a cupcake manufacturer based in Norfolk. How would I get a meeting with somebody at Google? And what's important to them? And these systems will generate all of that for me. But what I like to do next is I say, can you create me a script for a video that would be about a new product or service that I'm going to perform with the customer? So as a cupcake manufacturer trying to sell to Google, I'm trying to sell happiness in terms of cupcakes. It creates a script for me. And then I load that. Here I can reference mark. I load that into, here we go, there's the video. And then I'll load it into something like v.io and create a video of the product and the service, send it to the customer or have a bit of fun with the customer in the meeting. It's all still a little bit wooden, these sort of AI avatars, but there's still a little bit of fun to do that. So the second thing that's kind of fun to do is talking to your documents. So I had been paying for dental for years, and Google pays for dental. I didn't know because the benefits webpage and documents were just so long I couldn't be bothered to go through it. So here's an example. This was off of the internet. I grabbed a public one. That is a benefits document. You can now just put that in Google Drive, right-click, and just ask a simple question of the document. So that's great for benefits. We have customers using this in legal terms. So load all your past contracts in. Say, can you take all the indemnification clauses that I have in my previous contracts and create me a superset of my indemnification clauses? This is stuff that you can do and have fun with tomorrow. I kind of also like to use it to clarify the message. So here's a flyer I've created for an event that we're coming up. It obviously hasn't gone through our marketing department. It's still a bit clunky. But I want to, rather than pass it to someone and say, what do you think? They go, yeah, it looks good to me. I like to pass it into Gemini and go, what are the 3 things that you would take away from this particular flyer if you see it? And if those 3 things don't align with what I wanted them to say, I then reciprocate and say, well, how would you change this to be more interesting, more relevant? And on the flip side of this, and just to prove this isn't all Google stuff, that's my personal account on the right-hand side, so you can all get access to this. If you've got a Gmail account, so this is all on Gmail. So this is me receiving an email. And what I like to do now is I have a little kind of script. I say, I'm interested in these things. This is my role. Can you tell me why this would be useful to me and why? And then I'll also do that with meetings now. I'm invited to a meeting. What's the purpose of the meeting? And why would I be needed in that particular meeting? And I can use it very quickly, understand, well, I need to attend. I'm getting that. I know we've only got a short amount of time, haven't we? So the other thing I think is kind of interesting is using, and I know other products have this, you can now have Google Meet take your meeting notes for you. So it talks about what happened in the meeting and the action items that were actually created from the end of the meeting. So I'll take that, I pull it into Gemini, and then I say, create a summary email that I can send out to the team that highlights the key things that I'm interested in, or the key takeaways from that meeting and the individuals that own those action items. It takes you seconds to do it, saves you sort of half an hour writing those forwarding follow-up emails. So that's kind of cool. Last one. Talk to your data. This is the one I think is most interesting from a business perspective. So this is a margin analysis report that is on a web page. So this is not actually in a spreadsheet. I'm going to drag and drop that into Gemini, and I'm going to ask it, what do I need to be aware of in this report? What is important to me? And it'll come back and it'll say to me, you've got to worry about the certain cost of goods sold. Here we go, overall gross margin decreased. And give me a summary. But the piece that I think is really interesting is I then go and say, this is my role and this is my job. How does it relate to me, and what do I need to do next with this information? So it's a really good way of taking very complicated financial information and making it easily digestible for people that aren't finance folks in your organization. And then the final thing, I apologize, I couldn't find any spreadsheets. All the Google data was confidential. This is the record of a hot tub cleaning we've got in a bed and breakfast that we own. But first of all, summarizing data on the right-hand side, and then understanding and creating formulas for that data and asking questions about the data in a spreadsheet. I kind of use that all the time. I don't spend time anymore kind of going through and trying to understand the stuff. I just ask the AI to interpret it for me. So there's sort of 5 things. I hope they're useful. Did anyone do that already? Do you guys do some of those things already? Of course you do. So what I've done, the final thing I wanted to make a good point of is the fact that when you consider general AI today, we all know that it hallucinates a little bit. If you want to work on stopping it hallucinating, that's what my team does, and they work with businesses to do that. If you go and connect directly to Gen AI, buckle up. You're going to have some challenges. There's some design things that you've got to think about. So my advice is keep a human in the loop. Use it today to make people be more efficient. Don't necessarily make it open to the wild and the outside world. And then the other thing to note is all the data that comes out of generative AI these days is grounded. In this example here, that means that there's a source that it came from. So if you wait for a second, what you'll do is when you get to the end of the results that come out of Gemini, you can click on the little Google logo. It will go off to the internet and it will find all of the sources, so you can validate what it's saying is actually accurate. And so if you want to share more, scan the 2D barcode. I set up a little LinkedIn group for us, just for us in this room. I called it Human in the Loop. I will post these up, and I'd be happy to chat with folks offline about any projects that they've got going and how I can help you guys up in sunny Norwich. So.